This has been going on for about 3 weeks. This question of why didn't he reveal and be forthcoming, and now he just basically says, oh yeah, I should have done that, I'm sorry. Is that going to cut it?
No, not at all. Look, Adam Schiff has a major credibility problem. First, during the Mueller probe, he said, he told the American people, he looked us in the eye and he said that he had seen evidence of crimes on a scale comparable to Watergate. And then Mueller released his report. Turned out that was completely untrue. So he used his position as chairman of the Intelligence Committee to imply that there was secret evidence the rest of us weren't seeing that incriminated Donald Trump, and it turns out that was a lie. Then he coordinates with the whistleblower. The whistleblower comes to his office and he says literally that that he didn't talk to him, that the guy didn't come to him, and if it hadn't been for the whistleblower for the IG, we would have never known about it. I mean, it wasn't that he misspoke. It wasn't that he flat out lied. So this is the guy running this effort. He has no credibility whatsoever.
I want to ask you about the question about what Biden should be asked, right? This has lots of different threads. Listen to Congressman Bradley Byrne, what he thinks should happen. He's a congressman from Alabama.
I'm not asking for a foreign government to investigate him. I want the United States Congress to investigate him. If the name on here was not Hunter Biden, if it were Donald Trump Jr., these investigations would have already started.
And Mark, Hunter Biden is set to speak tomorrow on Good Morning America and ABC. But before we have that, we have a note from his attorney in which he writes, despite extensive scrutiny, at no time has any law enforcement agency, either domestic or foreign, alleged that Hunter engaged in wrongdoing at any point during his 5-year term. So what do you think that Biden should be made to answer in all of this?
Well, first of all, what Hunter Biden's lawyer put out is that if Biden is elected, if his father's elected, he stepped down from the board of the Chinese company that he was involved in, where he got an investment 2 weeks after flying to Beijing on Air Force Two, and then he said that he will follow all regulations regarding conflict or appearance of conflict of interest, and that if his father is elected president. Well, if it was a conflict of interest if it's going to be a conflict of interest when his father's president, why wasn't a conflict of interest when his father was vice president? It's the exact same problem. It's not so much that he did anything wrong, except taking $650,000 a year for having no expertise in Ukraine, no expertise in energy,
right, there's no
because
law
he was the
against
vice president's son. But that created a conflict of interest for his father. Because under federal regulations, if you are making a decision about a major matter in which a close relative, this is in federal code, a close relative has a financial interest, and there could be an appearance of a conflict of interest, then you're not allowed to do it. And Vice President Biden did it. He should not have been making decisions on Ukraine. For example, John Kerry was Secretary of State at the time. His stepson, Chris Hines, warned Hunter Biden not to get involved in Burisma, didn't get involved in Burisma. Secretary Kerry could have made the decision and be no problem. But Joe Biden had a conflict of interest both in this and in China, and he needs to answer for that in the debates tomorrow night.
Do you and that was a question. So it might come up from the moderators, but do you think that any of the other Democratic candidates are going to be willing to take him on this?
That's a fascinating question, because you would think that if this is, Biden is a wounded horse right now, and they could take him down very easily by saying, look, you had a conflict of interest, you didn't address it, your son was making money off of your name. This is the kind of stuff that we want to end in Washington, and you're in the way because we're trying to make a point against Donald Trump that Donald Trump did something wrong, and all he talks about is you. So why don't you get out of the way and let us have a clean shot at Donald Trump and have and root out all of this corruption in both Democrats and Republicans in Washington, D.C.
Does it seem, though, that Biden might be weathering this storm a bit? I guess if you look at some of the polls, Warren is inching up there, but Biden isn't totally dropping. And then he puts out this statement last week saying, if I become president, then I will make sure that none of my family is working in the White House. Now, if you're trying to win the Democratic primary, that to me seemed like maybe one of the smartest things they have done, and they haven't done a lot in the last 3 weeks.
Well, we'll see how much, because one of the problems that Joe Biden has, or the benefits Joe Biden has, is he's getting a lot of help from the media, because the media is bending over backwards to say nothing to see here. Well, yeah, I know. Everybody complains about Donald Trump attacking the media. He's attacking New York Times for being too pro-Trump and criticizing. I mean, come on.
Well, it's reminiscent of Hillary Clinton, right? She complained about the New York Times as well.
Exactly.
I'll give you the final word.
They love the New York Times until the New York Times publishes something critical of them. But look, he's got to answer for these questions. We'll find out tomorrow. He said the other day in a press conference that when someone asked him about his conflict of interest, he said, I'm not answering that. Well, will CNN and the New York Times let him get away with that tomorrow night? That's the big question. Are they going to press him?
Something tells me that they will not, but we'll see. Marc Thiessen,
well, we'll
love
see.
seeing you.
We'll see. Their credibility's on the line.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks.
The Biden